Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Hi, this is Mark Lee Morrison from the podcast Low Profile. I live in Olympia, Washington with my wife and 2 daughters, and I support Vish Khanna's Creative Control on Patreon because I appreciate his journalistic integrity. Vish talks with a lot of artists I care about, and he never asks any boring questions. I love hearing his interviews, and as a Patreon supporter, I get to hear even more of them. If you enjoy Creative Control too, I implore you to join me as a sustaining contributor.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today.
Backxwash is the performing name for Ashanti Mutinta, a Zambian-born hip-hop artist currently based in Montreal. Emerging as a public presence over the past few years, Backxwash has established herself as one of Canada's most fascinating, outspoken performers and artists today. She recently released an EP called Stigmata, but it's its full-length predecessor, God Has Nothing to Do with This, Leave Him Out of It, which has garnered her a higher profile and a shortlist nomination for Canada's prestigious Polaris Music Prize, which will be awarded on October 19th, 2020. Ashanti and I recently connected to discuss her trajectory from Lusaka, Zambia to rural British Columbia to her current state, splitting time between Montreal and Ottawa, why she felt forced to leave Zambia as a transgender woman and artist, how the West is engaging with the kind of life disruptions that many nations deal with regularly, how she got into hip-hop and her view of its stature these days, new album news, other future plans, and more. A part of the Entertainment One network with the support of listeners like you who follow and subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it, and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control, and Massey Hall's concert film series live at masseyhall.com, where you can stream dozens of 30-minute films for free, including performances by past podcast guests like Shad, plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton. This is the 565th episode of Creative Control, featuring the wondrous Backxwash with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
Cause I fuck with black magic, yeah. 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 I love the bad magic, yeah. I love the bad magic, yeah. Fuck with the mathematics, yeah. Fuck with the mathematics, yeah. I fuck with bad habits, yeah. I fuck with bad habits, yeah. I fuck with black magic, yeah. I fuck with black magic, yeah.
Hi, Ashanti. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing okay. And yourself?
I'm well. First of all, where in the world are you?
I am in Ottawa right now.
Ottawa. Now, I know of you as being from Montreal, which is close to Ottawa, but what brings you to Ottawa?
I actually do stay in Ottawa. Montreal is like my music base, but I'm usually but my physical, I guess, address is in Ottawa.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So how does that work? Why is Montreal your music HQ? Do you go there to record or what? Why? How does that work? Explain it to me, please.
Yeah. So I stayed in Montreal for a few months, but I had to leave because of immigration. So I got my PR while being in Ottawa, and I guess the stipulation of the PR was I have to stay in Ottawa for some time. So it was like, all these all this like connections and friends that I know from Montreal, I'll still be able to see them because Ottawa is like 2 hours away. So I guess I was like, well, I could record from Ottawa, or I could be like going to Montreal to record and to perform. And I was getting more shows in Montreal. So Montreal just became like my music base. And that's where my creative director is from as well.
I see. Okay. For those listening, PR, is that a passport renewal?
That's a permanent residence.
Permanent residence. I took a guess.
Yeah.
I like little word games.
Oh, nice.
So PR could be press release, but I didn't think you were talking about that. So permanent residency. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So that begs the question, two things, I guess. Where are you originally from? And two, how long have you been in Ottawa or Montreal, in Canada, I guess?
I'm originally from Lusaka, Zambia. So born in Zambia, stayed there for 17 years. Then I've been in Canada for like 10 to like 11 years now because I came.
Oh.
Yeah, I came when I was 17 years old.
Nice.
Yeah, like it's much easier to get your papers before you turn 18 during the time. And I was going to turn 18 like 2 weeks, like in 2 weeks after I dropped. So I just came, just like right when I was 17. And, I stayed in like BC for a bit and, had a short spell in Montreal. Then now I'm in Ottawa.
I see. Okay. Now, did you come here with your family or did you venture out on your own?
Oh, I can see my brothers and my sisters. I stay with my brother and my sister.
Oh, I see. So your siblings were here already, but are your parents around?
Parents are back in Zambia, but my siblings were like here already.
I see. Okay. Now, the Zambia, information that you've just provided prompts me to ask a few different questions. First of all, let's start with the obvious. For those of us who have never been or may never get to go now, in particular with all of the travel restrictions, what was it like for you to grow up in Zambia?
It was all right, honestly. Never really like lived in a place as comparable as Zambia. People are very friendly. People are very helpful, and the amount of money that you can survive on is like pretty low as well. But there's also poverty, and there's also all of these like colonial institutions that were left by the British. So it's got like a lot of conservatism in it. So I was growing up as a major Christian, just like reading all the books and being in tune with all that Christian life. But I wasn't at times I wasn't the best of Christian, but I guess I was diligent to a certain degree. So it was conflicting in terms of people are nice here, but again it's like in order to protect yourself, there are certain things that you had to keep secret from other people, and in order for you to like express yourself, it was very difficult at times.
Right. So there are some parallels between your experience in Zambia and experiences I've had in Canada. In terms of your distinction about poverty in Zambia, how would you compare that, the living, and you were saying, in some ways, like the standard of living is cheaper. Well, in a lot of ways, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Can you talk about those two things as they relate to your experience in Canada? I'm just curious, like the levels of poverty you've witnessed here, how do they compare? And also, now that you're here, you've been in BC. I assume you were near Vancouver, if not in Vancouver, which is one of the most expensive cities in the world. Montreal is not. Actually, you can speak to that. Montreal and Ottawa. Yes, yeah. Let's talk about that. Standards of living and as they compare between your time in Zambia and Canada. Can you elaborate upon that?
Yeah. So standards of living in terms of I like to I don't know. I'm not like an economist, but I like to compare it by like the dollar value.
Sure.
Growing up in Zambia, I could obtain groceries for the whole week for, maybe even $5.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
$5 to $10. Give me my bread, give me my soap, give me my eggs. Give me some meat. I'm set. But
$5.
$5.
Wow. Okay.
$5 to $10, and you're good. And comparing it to like living in like BC, and I was in like rural BC. I'm not gonna say the city, but it was like rural BC. And,
Okay. I see. Okay.
yeah, and just like the amount of like money that you can be able to save up was pretty difficult living in BC. I was shocked when I found out that pizza was like $20. Especially, I was like, what? This is expensive. And I guess when there's more cash flow in Canada, so I guess the price of groceries tends to be higher and stuff like that. But I guess it was just like seeing the difference when you can make that comparison. Was pretty surprising to me, and I guess comparing in a local sense from let me compare Montreal, BC, and Ottawa. I would say I've had like a good experience in terms of prices in Montreal. The prices in BC where I was staying wasn't as bad as Vancouver, because Vancouver is ridiculous. Ottawa is also ridiculous in terms of like the amount that the apartments cost, right? It's just like it's some of the prices are I can't even like I always remain speechless because I'm just looking at them and I'm like, you're paying for a 2-centimeter apartment and it's like $4,000 a month. Yeah. So being able to compare just like the standards of living is kind of like eye opening. But again, you take a look at poverty, because the next logical step would be, well, if the standard of living, I guess the price point of just like living seems much better or much lower where you're from, then probably a lot of people are more well-to-do off, and you start looking at it and you're like, no, because the resources that Zambia had were exploited, and a lot of the countries during that time were just kept in disarray and shambles. So we do have problems economically a lot, and you see a lot of poverty with people. Just like living conditions are like so bad at times. My friend, I used to have this friend, and we would hang out, and he would have to do like homework of where I'm staying, because like electricity was like luxury to them. If that some days they wouldn't have candles, you don't have candles, you can't do your homework. And you see like different neighborhoods and different places just have like a lot of poverty to them, and it's so sad to see. And you have like children growing up in this environment, and Zambia is trying, but they've been exploited so much, and the resources have been excavated so much that it's very hard for them to do. And just like the system that's in place as well is not beneficial to them, because it's not a system that benefits everyone. It's a system that kind of congratulates or gives more to the people in high positions. The politicians that are there. We have our type of government. We have like ministers, like Minister of Education, Minister of Science, and all of this. And sometimes I like to think, like, what do these people actually do?
Yeah.
They get paid so much money, but you just wonder, like, what is their purpose in doing all of this? And I think I commend the country that I'm from for trying after all of these like years of turmoil, but it's kind of hard when you've been oppressed and the system that's in place is just not beneficial to no one. So comparing that to, I guess, comparing that to Canada, it's very different because oh, sorry, go ahead.
You invoked the word resources a few times there, and can you first, from your perspective, can you identify what some of the, and you mentioned that those resources have been excavated and that your country has been exploited for them.
Yeah.
How would you identify those specific resources, the ones that are the targets of that exploitation?
I would, talk about like natural resources in terms of Africa. So like 1960s, people would 1960s and, years before that, Africa was rich for, diamonds, copper, all of these different natural materials. And you had British South Africa company that came all the way from Britain that, what's his name? Cecil Rhodes, the guy that built train station from like Cairo all the way to South Africa in order just to export diamonds. So you had all of these British people come in and say, all right, these are ours now. And we're not going to use any of them. We're not going to give you any of them back. We're just going to excavate all of this stuff, take it to Britain in the name of putting you under a protectorate. So the protectorate for them was like, oh, this is a place that is under British protection. And, that's how we'll have a hold over you. And, because during colonization, you had Belgium had a few colonies, France had a few colonies, the British had a lot of colonies. And, they spent all the time earlier on just decimating the infrastructure that we had. In 1972, around that time, our president we got independence in 1964. 1972, President Kenneth Kaunda was actually doing well to a point where I think one kwacha was equal to $1.29. It was actually pretty good. I think it was I've forgotten where it's at. I've forgotten exactly where it's at, but I have a suspicion on when it was, when Kenneth Kaunda said, instead of us importing all of these different things, we're gonna start, building our own things. So when you go back to Zambia, you have the Zampen, which is like a pen from Zambia, and it's got a certain brand into it, and it's one of the memories of that. But it didn't stay for long, and we were back in disarray. And there's a lot of conversation right now, and there's still mines. There's still mining happening there, and you have external forces coming in and buying off these mines in exchange for, we're gonna build you roads and we're gonna do this stuff. But it's a double-headed situation in which people are being mistreated by some of these companies that are coming, and the question is it worth it at the end of the day if we're still being treated the same way as we would be treated pre-independence? So yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I asked you about this, about the excavation, about the exploitation, was about the labor. I've asked you a couple of times to try to relate your time in Zambia with your time in Canada. Here in Canada, such labor that you're describing when it comes to the excavation of natural resources, in our case, it's all sorts of different things, I suppose, but often that work is assigned to people who have maybe lower education, maybe are considered of a lower class, if you will. Perhaps maybe maybe it's migrants. It can often be work that's assigned. There's an inherent racism to it too. It's the work that not everyone here would like to do, Was it a similar circumstance in Zambia, or who was doing that work, I guess, is to your recollection, when you left? I know you've been here 11 years, but this work, this exploitation that you're talking about, this labor, who generally was kind of doing it, if you will?
I guess the mining companies operate handle, just like any company. So at the top you have, you definitely have like the owners, all of these mines, rich people, and definitely doing much well than everybody else. Then at the bottom you have definitely people who will be considered of a lower class, working the mines and going in and going in long hours just trying to get into the mines. And it's the exploitation that is happening right now from these other companies behaves the same way, where you have you have poor people working in the mines while the rich people are just like sitting at the top and collecting their funds. There was a case in which I think a worker got shot. So a worker got shot because I think they were having a strike, and it was like this huge controversy, but it brought up the question again of is it worth it if people are treating us like this? If it was kind of like pre-independence times, like, is it worth it to have, these external companies here as well? So
yeah, okay. So these kinds of questions that stir up, maybe not as prominently here as they should. They're stirred up where you were from in Zambia as well, is what you're saying. Like, but people do raise questions about this. Okay. One of the reasons first of all, thank you for explaining all of that. I guess one follow-up question. You say you arrived here about 11 years ago, and I think you said you were maybe around 17 or something like that. Yeah. So before you left Zambia, I'm not sure how much of the workforce you were a part of. Were you a student? Were you working at that point when you left?
I had just completed my grade 12, and I wasn't really working apart from, helping my friend sell stuff there are these shops that we call timbers, and they're like really, really small, and it's usually built like, it's almost like sometimes you feel it's like, how can I describe it? It's like a hole in the wall, essentially. It's like a hole. It's like a hole in the wall with bars. And my friends had one at the corner, and sometimes I would help them sell. But I wanted to try and get my studio going, and see if I can charge people for like making beats and recording them. But that wasn't as successful as I thought it would be.
Well, I marvel at any immigration. I'm the child of immigrants. My parents moved here in the mid-'70s from India.
Awesome.
And every once in a while, well, it's worked out well for all of us. I would say I'm happy. I'm good. I've been to India only the one time, and I had a bit of culture shock. And I was 12. But so as I've gotten older, would try to ask them questions about their motivations for leaving, and I never really got anything beyond sort of nebulous, for a better life. We wanted a better life, and I'd say, but you always say India is the greatest country in the whole world, and now you left it for Canada for a better life. Yeah. And they're like, we don't need to elaborate upon this, They're just, we left, and that's all you need to know. Like, it's fine. So I wonder, as a teenager, your compulsion to leave Zambia. I know this must be complicated for you. I can't quite tell about your emotional connection to Zambia based on our line of discussion, which has been, I think, fair to say, it's been balanced but critical. Tell me about your relationship with Zambia now, and can you also, within that, talk about what compelled you to leave? I know you say you had siblings here in Canada, but it's a big move. I mean, like I say, I marvel at anyone who makes such a big move.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? What compelled you to leave?
I guess it's Okay, I'll go with the first one first. I guess.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry. I think I've got a strong connection to it, but because of who I am, it's kind of hard to return and visit Zambia, and just because of
when you say who you you're probably about to explain it. I was just hoping you could elaborate upon what that means. Who you are.
Yeah. So as a trans person, it's like a no-go zone for me.
I see.
Yeah. So being a trans person and going back to Zambia is not something I would recommend.
Is that based on your own experiences there as a trans person, or from what you observed?
It's both. I was mostly in the closet back in Zambia, but I would see people's reactions when they faced somebody who might embrace some sort of fluidity. So I guess it's a complicated connection because that's where I'm from, but it's kind of hard for me to embrace some parts of it. But it's kind of ridiculous in a sense because some of the tribes that are in Zambia before the missionaries came, explored that fluidity and that that gender fluidity, and that was pretty normal for them. But when the missionaries came and they said this is wrong, that's when it went to shit.
And so you have a conflicted relationship.
Yeah.
With Zambia. It's your homeland.
Yeah.
I'm sure you miss it, but you feel unwanted at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess compulsion to leave was just I just wanted to join my brothers and my sisters, and I guess it was also when you're living in Zambia and people are talking about life in the West, you kind of get seduced by that as well,
Well, what were they? Yeah, that's fascinating. So, what were your brothers and? Because that happened with my parents too. There seemed to be friends and relatives who kind of scouted out Canada for them. They'd report back and say what it was like, and then that was kind of enough for my parents to make the move. So, I actually am curious about what your siblings reported back to you about Canada that made it seem alluring, because the other part of where I'm coming from with this is you are in Canada during a pandemic.
Yeah.
You are witnessing how Western societies are dealing with situations that I think people in Africa, people in different parts of the world, for various reasons, experience annually, monthly, daily. So my questions are, again, I'm sorry to load you up with two questions at a time, but this is the way it happens sometimes in a conversation. So my questions are both, what did you hear about Canada that made you think, oh, that might be all right for me? And two, what do you make of what it's like right now as the Western countries sort of seem to be floundering at this great inconvenient interruption in their daily lives? Can you talk about both of those things?
Yeah, so, 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old, hearing about how dope, Canada is in terms of, just the music here and, so many different cultures. And, I guess I was just looking forward to, and the idea that there is possibility here to do something. Not saying there isn't possibility to do something back in Zambia, but I think that's one of the major problems in which I guess people think the best way is to leave Zambia, and I'm guilty of that as well.
Well, if you have already expressed that you felt limited in your ability to be yourself as a person, so how can you possibly, if you're feeling that way already, I can't see how you'd feel comfortable expressing yourself as an artist.
That's true. And I guess, what's interesting is seeing the way, the Western people are handling this versus, Africa. I'm not really shocked because growing up, we were hit with like waves of like disease season. So during like the cold season or rain season, that's when it's mosquito season. Mosquito season means, you're about to get malaria. You're about to get
malaria. Yeah.
You're about to get you're about to get sick, and you have to take the necessary precautions. And using things like mosquito nets and spraying bug spray becomes the normal part of your protocol because you're kind of used to that. Then there's cholera season, and during cholera season they say make sure you boil your water, but that becomes like a natural protocol to say, well, I'm just gonna boil my water regardless, So it's like swimming in the lake. Should I really swim in the lake, or am I gonna get like bilharzia? So it's just like I think growing up back there, you're really careful of what you tend to do, and if you're in a situation where you're hit with the wave, you take the necessary precautions. So I'm not really shocked that African countries are handling it well because. If they told them, "Oh, make sure you put a mask on," it's a bad season for this. They'll definitely do it because they
right.
Yeah, they've been hit with like so many. They've been hit with like a few different pandemics or epidemics, if to be more accurately. So
well, there's something about you say you're not surprised, or are you shocked at the entitlement? I feel like the subtext of the way people are adversely reacting to any protocols is that this isn't supposed to happen here.
Oh yeah.
It's super selfish and weird, and I wonder. I understand you're not shocked, but you must be. The entitlement to me is staggering.
It is.
And I've lived here my whole life, and so I have certain built-in cynicism towards humans and people based on the way I've seen them drive their cars and behave. And I'm not perfect either. Like we all have this self-interest sometimes, and you try to be mindful of it. And if you're self-aware enough or what have you, but yeah, I don't know. I just wondered about your perspective there. Like people just, that to me is what's going on. This isn't supposed to be happening to us.
It is like so ridiculous. And how they try to relate it to, some people try to relate it to kind of show how masculine they are, and I'm like, dude, it's really just a mask. It's not that serious. It's just a mask. This other guy was like, oh, like I think like he made a joke that men who like wear masks kind of like wear dresses or something like that, and I'm like. It's really not that serious. It's just a mask. Like it's supposed to protect you.
I've not heard that. I mean, many of our masculine heroes wear masks. Every superhero basically wears a mask. Batman seems pretty masculine, and he's got his nose covered with that mask. I don't know about the mouth area. That seems suspect for what's going on. But yeah, that makes no sense. I don't see the mask thing as doctors. I never think of a doctor as unmasculine when they're performing surgery on me. I'm like, good. That's probably good. I'm glad you're wearing the mask. Yeah, it's just the inconvenience for people is the fact that is the primary concern. Or the, what about this? Here we have, and it's rising annually, conspiracies. Yeah. Disbelief of facts. Yeah. Do you have any experience with this? You mentioned conservatism, certain limitations to what how people can function where you're from originally, but was this mistrust? Actually, you have a lot of corruption probably where you're from too, just as we do. But was there this en masse, or at least segments of the population, like massive segments of the population that distrusted the media, distrusted politicians enough to just say, I'm not doing that. I'm going to be the exception to this protocol. Do you have any recollection of that occurring in Zambia?
Only when it intersects with the church, because the church is very big in Zambia. So if you wanna make a conspiracy theory popular in Zambia, just related to a church, to the church in some way, and it's gonna blow up. I remember.
That's fascinating. I'm surprised no one said there's no masks in the Bible. I'm waiting for that. That's probably going to happen here soon. I can see that happening, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
I could see that.
Because you described all the protocols that happen when, virus season, as I think you called it, is upon you in Zambia. People will boil their water, and no one. I guess that's it. You mentioned that people are like, it's not masculine to wear a mask. You're seeing that as we're still in. I would describe this as still the early days of the pandemic, right? But like, would people do that there? It'd say like, what are you boiling your water for? You see, like no one. You're being a wimp because you're boiling your water. Would people say that?
You know what? They definitely wouldn't say that because when you get sick and you see somebody dying of cholera, it would scare anyone straight.
Yeah, but that's not happening here. We're not seeing.
Which is so weird. It's extremely weird.
The virus rates are up and people are dying. I mean, we're right next door to a country that's leading the way in terms of how not to manage this. I don't think it's a virus that has a passport and needs one to get over. Like, yeah, I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And, by the way, how are you doing? Sorry, I usually ask my guests early on how they're doing in the midst of all of this. I did ask you how you were. I'm not a jerk, but I didn't ask you how you were doing in terms of the pandemic. How are you doing emotionally and whatnot?
I'm doing okay. Trying to I'm already like always like, I'm usually reserved. Like I'm usually in my home, just like alone, most of the time. So this wasn't like such a big change.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's very different once you know you're in it. If this wasn't Corona season and I was just in my apartment, closed off from the world, it'll be all right. But there's a certain layer once you're just in your apartment alone and it's Corona season. There's like a certain added element of stress to it. Because I guess you're worrying about like, are you doing the absolute right thing to be safe? But in general, I feel okay. But just still kind of, still at the top of my mind as to what's the best way to be safe.
Well, and so there's the safety protocols and the responsibility we all have to our respective communities, of course, in terms of not being part of any spread of this thing, I'm sure, and not contracting it ourselves, of course. You are a performer though as well. And because of congratulations on your Polaris Music Prize nomination, by the way.
Thank you.
I feel like your profile is about as high as it's ever been in Canada. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the most, ever since I started doing music, like in totality, this is the most traction I've ever got.
You got a lot of attention at the moment. The record, God Has Nothing to Do with This, Leave Him Out of It, is nominated for this award. You just put out an EP in August, I want to say, the Stigmata EP. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. So you're making music, and ideally, I'm sure, yourself and others who care about your career probably would want you to be playing some live shows, doing whatever you can. So I guess my question is, vocationally, how are you feeling? I talk to many artists who are struggling in various ways with what's going on in terms of the pandemic. And then I think also I'm speaking to many artists who are not sure if tonally, because of all of the police brutality the racism, the social unrest. Like, it's what a strange dovetailing of issues to make someone wonder if, is this the right time to be writing music and releasing music and performing? Like, are we just ignoring all of this stuff at the same time by doing that? Like, it's weird. Yeah. How are you doing on I'm a musician and I'm an artist and I'm a performer level?
I guess from that aspect, I guess I would say I'm doing okay in terms of I still want to go back in the studio and I still want to record stuff. My surroundings and my team in terms of recording is very small. In terms of coming up with music is very small. It's just usually me and my engineer, and if I need a session player, they will record it on their side and they'll through their home studio, and they'll send me the stems. So in terms of logistics, it's pretty fine. In terms of just like performing, you do have like your social distance shows, and you do have your virtual shows, but there's a certain aspect of it in which you kind of have to make sure and make a judgment to see if people are taking all the best precautions when it comes to the shows. That's a big one. The last weekend there was like a rave here, maskless, and had a bunch of people in it, and I was just like, what are you people doing?
What were they doing? Why were they doing that?
I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I think it was like 5 DJs, no masks, and people are just having a rave, and it's just like you see all the stories on your Instagram, and you're like, oh my god, what is going on? I
was just I live in Edmonton now. I moved from Ontario to Edmonton, and I was just at the grocery store, and I saw a guy wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat.
Oh,
and I was just like, wow, yeah. I saw one once where I lived in Guelph, and I was like, what the hell? And I saw it again, and I was just like, what the? I saw it today. As I'm speaking to you, I saw it's been 2 hours since I saw it, and I view those hats as like a hate symbol, like a hate crime.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really, we're relying on people to get us through all of this stuff, and it's like I say, it's just hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to rely on people, and I'm sure you're seeing sides of Canadian and North American people that you could not even fathom existing. Maybe I don't know. I feel like you're a realist about these things.
Yeah. I mean, people are coming out of the woodworks and just saying the most ridiculous thing. I saw this news kind of like this news show where this person was talking to this lady, and he was like, why aren't you wearing your mask? And she says, well, I'm very confident that Jesus will protect me. And she's just walking around, and it's very interesting because just the mask alone has brought out the weird radical conservatives out of the woodwork. It's for people that tend to say, oh, we are all based on like rational thought, and we leave out emotions when we're making decisions, and we just like objective decisions. For them to say no to a mask is kind of ridiculous.
It's kind of, to me, highlighting just the array of things that people put their faith in.
Yeah.
We've been talking about religion, and that's usually what faith means. But I think people also put their faith in news sources, or they put their faith in themselves. Yeah. To just to allay anxiety, they believe a certain thing. Yeah. And it could be completely unconventional, but we're sort of seeing all these. It's become a multi-faith time where, like, really, like, you believe in this twisted belief system that has nothing to do with anything that we all are experiencing. Like, it's sometimes it's not even religion. It's just information. I put my faith in this information to get me through my days, and now I'm going to spout off about it. So all that stuff in the shadows is coming out, and it's certainly frustrating for me. I was thinking about you as a rapper and your delivery as an artist, and I think it's been described as aggressive. And when I hear it, it can be. I mean, I've had your music playing in the open air of my house. I have 2 little children, and awesome. Every once in a while, they're good. They're good. My son in particular really likes rap and hip hop, and so I have, but I have found it a little intense to have on when I'm cooking in the kitchen sometimes, and they're around, because this is not meant to disparage you in any way. They're 9 and 5. They're young. They're very young. So I'm not, don't get this twisted. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's intense. And I wonder, we've talked a lot about where you've come from, your life experience. Does that inform your attack as an artist? Does the restriction you felt in Zambia, for example, does like moving to Canada, is all of this emotion coming from those things, or does it feel like something more recent, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's something that, it's a combination of all my experiences, but I think I just figured out how to do it more recently. If that,
I see.
Yeah. Combination of all my experiences, but I just figured out how to do it recently. Because I don't know any other way to make music right now, just because of, I'm still not past it, and these are my emotions, essentially.
When you say you're not past it, what are you not past?
I guess everything in terms of feeling trauma, just like everything. Still not past it. So I don't know any other way else I would be.
You on your latest record, the God has nothing to do with this, leave him out of it. There are moments where you seem to be reflecting perceptions of yourself, the way you're perceived as a person, and I know that can be like for some people it would be sort of lashing out at being observed or being scrutinized. But what does that say about your own comfort in your own skin? Because at some point, some of us reach a point where, I mean, I have it as a person of color as well, where like when the mask thing first started, I was wearing my mask in the grocery store, and I'm not trying to make a pun here, but I was kind of the minority doing that. And I would get these stares, and at first I'm like, oh, well, they're staring at me because I'm wearing the mask. But then I was like, oh, wait a minute, no, these are familiar stares. I live in Canada, and I'm often surrounded by white people, and those stares are not just because I'm wearing a mask right now. And like I say, I think there's moments like that in your life experience that you reflect in your work. So how much of that is simply trying to use your music to address that feeling of being scrutinized, and how much of it is you trying to express something to yourself about your place in the world?
I think it's more of the time is just me lashing out against the scrutiny. I guess I would say even a lot of the times it's just me kind of lashing out against like scrutiny, harassment and mistreatment and all of these things, and trying to like bring it forward. Also, I guess just attacking structures that were imposed on me, like just like the Christian religion, and just asking questions that I wasn't able to ask in the past.
Right. Because of just feeling restricted to be able to express yourself.
Yeah.
So, okay. So just thinking about Montreal, your sound, I mean, the sound you've come up with for your work, being in Montreal over the last 11 years, Montreal changed a lot at the beginning of this century. I think Constellation Records there was on the come up.
Oh yeah.
There was a kind of pop music explosion, if you will, if you count Arcade Fire and Wolf Parade and all those kinds of bands as being pop. You get there maybe at the tail end of that, but still a city quite vibrant with music and art.
Yeah.
How has being in Montreal and I guess being in Ottawa inspired you or influenced you in your own work?
It inspired me a lot. Montreal, I like the Montreal Underground. Montreal Underground has got people doing just like the most amazing things with their tools. And, you know, just on Friday going to La Soterena and, you know, listen to like a noise show, or going to La Plante and, you know, listening to like an experimental rock show, and, you know, going to like La Cypher and just seeing people jam on these like live instrument, hip hop instrumentals. It's a very inspirational city because you have people coming through from all walks of life, and you know, it's once you see them do it, it kind of gives you that inspiration of, oh, you know, maybe I can do it as well. And yeah, it's just very vibrant as well.
Your interest in hip hop, I'm just curious where that began and what inspired it, because on some level, some of your sounds and some of your approaches as a vocalist might well fit in hardcore punk or metal, you know, rock sort of idioms, and also in more gritty rap and hip hop. How did you get into hip hop, and why did it feel like the best sort of realm, if you will, to express yourself artistically?
So I started, I guess I was really into hip hop when I was, when I first started doing music, I was into like slow R&B. That was like when 807, you know, Boyz II Men, because that was what my sister used to listen to. I used to love it. Then I saw the More Money, More Problems video, and it changed my life. Cause
that's a good video.
Yeah.
It's shiny suits and
yeah, it's incredible. And you know, I think I just really like how like Mace came on the first verse, and B.I.G. Also really liked his flow, and I used to watch it continuously. When it first showed up, I asked my sister, like, you know, what is this? It doesn't sound like singing; it just sounds like they're talking. And it's like, oh no, this is like, you know, this is like rap. And, you know, she kind of showed me the basics of what like hip hop is. And, you know, from there, I just kept on listening and, you know, writing rhymes and studying and being a fan of like so many different forms of hip hop, as well as, you know, not just hip hop, just like music in general. I was big on like Linkin Park at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like my teen years. You know, I had like a Black Sabbath phase, so it was just like a combination of different styles of music. But you know, hip hop has always been like my first love.
I was thinking about this the other day, actually, that this is going to sound stupid on the one hand, but I was actually thinking about how Donald Trump has famously been mentioned or sampled or even appeared on like 1,000 hip hop records.
Yeah.
And the one thing you mentioned, Mo Money, Mo Problems. And the one thing I'm kind of struggling with at the moment is the hip hop for me, when I got into it as a kid, it was an aspirational kind of music. Like it was a pretty angry and pointed kind of political music.
Yeah.
And then when I think about the relationship of Trump and the manifestation of like where hip hop has kind of been over the last 20 years, I'm going to sound like such an old, out of touch man right now. Sorry. But like, I just think about the materialism involved in hip hop and how Trump's whole thing is money, porn stars, women, like money, sex, like now there's drugs. And this kind of like, if it's about money, like why are people arguing? Like if all it is, like I'll just throw money at every issue and people should be happy. What are they complaining about? And like I think about where hip hop has gone in the last 20 years or so, it really is kind of a lot of it anyway has been kind of about that. Like my favorite producer and rapper for the last 20 years, and this is very difficult to say out loud, but his name is Kanye West, and I can't. Now it's very hard to reconcile that how many times have I seen Kanye West live? How many records do I shirts? Like I have all the stuff. I was obsessed with him.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I don't know what to do with him now. And on some level, and then like he aligned himself with Trump. And then when you actually think about the misogyny in his music and the materialistic aspects of it, like the kind of out of touch rich guy, sexist bullshit. Like, so now I'm like, wait, what did I do? Like, what happened? Is this some fault of the music, or is Trump really their avatar? Like he was on, like I randomly played an old Method Man record the other day and I was looking at it and I'm like, Donald Trump skit. What the, like he's on the record saying Method Man, we're all waiting for your new album. I'm like, oh no, what happened? So anyway, sorry, whole knot of thoughts there, but do you have an opinion about, again, I'm very narrowly suggesting hip hop has taken some turn that it didn't have when I was first into it.
Yeah.
Like in terms of its economic aspirational qualities and what Trump represents, there's some weird connection there that I don't like. And do you disagree with me on that, first of all?
Yeah, a bit.
I would think so. Like I'm struggling with it. I don't have an argument here. It's just something that occurred to me.
Yeah, I think back in the day, people like to use, if we're talking about, okay, so the thing is, I think any music, when it starts being more popular, I think the topic of embracing capitalism comes up a lot.
Yeah, sure.
An example is, the NSYNC videos that used to come out during like the early 2000s, were just like
private jets and
absolutely.
Like,
it was pop is very glamorous, and pop was very popular then, and I think Donald Trump is at that time, I mean, people who knew that he was extremely bad, because he did write that letter
about the Central Park Five.
Yeah, and oppressive, just like systems when it comes to property that he used to own. So
right, racist practices as a landlord. Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
But I think he was known more as this is just that rich guy. So it's a quirky thing to have.
Well, I should say I think he was being clowned in most of the lyrics about him.
Yeah.
I think he was being clowned and being like, wouldn't it be fucking funny to get that idiot Donald Trump on our record? Like I do think there's a side of that, but then I also just think of every time I hear a reference to him in some old song I like, I'm just cringing now, and maybe no one knew what he was capable of really at that point.
Yeah, and I think just like in speaking of like the turn of hip hop, I think now is like the perfect time to actually be like a hip hop fan, mostly because the amount of music that is out, the amount of different content that is out, the different subgenres that are out, and trap is going to be popular because it's accessible, and it embraces that idea of capitalism, of same thing as pop was doing in the early 2000s, and but when you take a look at hip hop and you say, well, I don't really like that, I'm looking for something with a bit much more substance, and with a bit more experimentation, and you can go to your abstract hip hops, you can go to your industrial hip hop, you can go to like your experimental hip hop, you can go to like your cloud rap, you can go to like your emo rap. So I think now is like a really good time to be like a hip hop fan, because just the amount of content that is out is staggering.
Yeah, I think it's unfair. First of all, thank you. Secondly, I do think it's unfair to ascribe blame or criticism to any genre for putting its success out front. And I don't think this is like, you bring up some pop examples, and I wasn't trying to say all hip hop is like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it does feel more it has felt more in my face in the last few years of just like money, cars, women. And that exists in rock and roll. That's a rock and roll trope. I mean, God, from the 50s onward, it was all about those things.
Another aspect of it as well is hip hop is like the most popular music right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like, it's going to be like saturated, and you're probably going to hear more of those songs. Yeah, you're probably going to hear more of those songs. Since that's what the people want to play on radio and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I like. Do you know that TV show Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yeah.
So I really like that show, and I've always liked that show. But now I'm watching it again, and I don't know what happened, but my attitude has sort of shifted about it, because I'm like, I didn't really think of it as this weird. It's a comedy, and it's very dark in so many ways, but it's really a lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Ah, yeah.
Because you have this like, almost near billionaire getting into fights with his fellow millionaires and billionaires. Like, it's sort of weird. It's sort of a weird thing that we all like, he's got his nice house and his car, and they have these rich people arguments that we can sort of laugh at because these rich people are idiots. Like, that's to me the saving grace of it. But like, I'm just as exposed to that affluence from comedians in cars getting coffee. Like, it's just that in your face affluence thing, it just gets to me sometimes. Yeah. And so so that's all. Like, it's just a trope that I have wrestled with I've been a hip hop and rap and hip hop fan since I was like a little kid, since the 80s, and I just sometimes I have more. This is all obviously playing in the background of my mind as I listen to new hip hop. I'm like, is this saying something? But wait a minute, what is that other record full of guitars and bass even saying? What does it mean to say something with your music? Like, I don't really get into the style or substance arguments too much, or I don't dwell on it, but you're like, it's come to mind listening to you, frankly, because you're saying lots of substantive, deeply personal things, and it doesn't feel braggadocious. It feels like empowering. I feel like you're asserting yourself.
Oh, thank you.
And I relate to that, but it doesn't feel like you are, sanding off the edges. It feels real.
Yeah.
So that's all. That's all I'm getting at. Like, it used to be, I do relate to music that feels real and genuine and doesn't feel like it's just navel gazing and celebrating itself. If that makes any sense. So
absolutely.
Anyway, sorry, bit of a tangent. Are we still cool? I hope you're not. We're good, right? We're okay. Just making sure. Making sure we're okay. So, I guess I wonder what's next for you at this point. Like, we've kind of talked about this cultural suspension we're in. You are releasing music, and you say you can make it remotely. What are you gonna? And then there's the Polaris Music Prize. As we're speaking, the Polaris Music Prize gala is coming up, and I don't know if you're taking part in that or what kinds of demands are being placed on you because of that. Can you speak to what you're kind of up to these days?
So I guess what I'm up to is just I'm making instrumentals and writing lyrics and trying to figure out, because I guess the next album is going to be narrative based, and trying to figure out how I'm going to connect the threads. And in terms of Polaris, we're going to do a virtual gala, so we have some things planned from the virtual side. And it's I guess it's people in terms of performance have to change, because they now have to be good virtually, which was not something that you would like do in the past. So it's very different. A lot of like learning experiences, and all I want, I guess, is just to continue making music, the type of music that I want, and just like, as honest as I can do it. And I think I'm just going to continue down that path and see how long I can do this for.
It's a little bit of a day-to-day operation now, isn't it? Just being a human being.
Yeah, you have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare yourself. And sometimes when it's too much and you want to just stay in bed, that's fine as well.
Yeah. I'm sure you want to keep some of this information sealed until it's time, but I'm intrigued by what you mentioned about a narrative-based album. And if you don't want to get too specific about it, that's fair, but...
I can talk about it.
You want to talk about it? I just wonder what inspired you to take on a kind of conceptual record, first of all, and if you want to talk about maybe what it's about at this point, I'm sure myself and others would love to hear about it.
See, inspired by Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly is the such a great piece of work. I'm always in awe about like how he just like did that. Just like the fusing of the genres, the story told from like front to back, and the delivery, the performance, the whole aesthetic. It was very powerful and something that I've really been inspired by. And I thought it would be nice to experiment with the narrative that I experienced, in which I experienced the church burning down back in Zambia because people thought it was a Satanist church. So I would like to kind of tell that story, but kind of like put my own personal twist on it.
Yeah, like thank you for explaining that. I mean, this record that's nominated for this award, and I mean, you've got a new EP called Stigmata.
Yeah.
Your latest album is called God Has Nothing to Do with This, Leave Him Out of It. What is your relationship to both God as a concept and Satan? What is your relationship to good and evil at this point?
It's my relationship to God was based on, this is a system that I grew up in, but it's a system that I cannot be a part of because just because of me being like a trans person, and I guess the embracing of the darker imagery is kind of embracing of the rejection and being fine with the rejection.
Okay, you're coming to terms with who you are and how people relate to who you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's very powerful, and I appreciate your music, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you, Ashanti. If you wanted to send people to learn more about you or your music on the internet, where would you like them to go?
Backxwash.bandcamp.com.
Okay. Are you on the other things? All of the other various things?
Yeah, I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, the whole shebang.
Instagram
Facebook as well, Twitter as well. And I saw you. I think I saw you in Toronto.
I was there in February doing a live talk show at the Long Winter Festival, and then you. Yeah, that's right.
That was a really good podcast. I like that.
Did you like that? Did you enjoy that panel? What? I don't even. That's the last time I've been in Ontario. I flew back just to do that, which some people here thought was kind of nutty. I was like, you know what? I want to do it. I had a good panel, and I did really I did the January. You liked it? Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a little ramshackly, and then you, following that, did a really wonderful chat, talk, a live podcast taping with my friend Anupa Mystery for Anupa's Burnout podcast. I thought that was really cool.
Shout out Anupa.
Yeah, I just talked to her this week. It was nice to see her again, and virtually, of course. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good. I'm glad we've connected. If there's a song of yours that we can go out on, either, if we didn't really talk about the Stigmata EP, but if it's from that, or maybe God Has Nothing to Do with This, Leave Him Out of It, would you pick something for us and maybe tell us why you chose it?
I'm going to choose Spells from God Has Nothing to Do with It, only because I wasn't feeling too well yesterday, and Debbie checked up on me, which is awesome.
Oh, okay. Who is Debbie exactly?
Debbie is the person featured on the Spell song. She's from the band Black Dresses, and she's like really talented.
Okay. All right. So let's send this out to Debbie. We might as well do that. And And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with this award thing and
Thank you.
everything else you do in the future. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much, Ashanti.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to heaven, then I bet you I'll be safe for weeks. I'm only human, even though it doesn't feel that way. I'm broken, useless in the morgue, and I can't leave the place. I think I'm soulless in my soulless. I'm hopeless, I don't know if my emotions buy an ostrich by the office while the doors are open, closing, and there's no one in the corridors. At my reflection, like, yeah, here's a sorry thought. But this shit is so very simple. Heart is so dead with tissue. The karma is heaven hits you. See, my only option is devoting myself and minstrel. Think that I'm responsible, this monster will let me hear you. Think of all the problems I ponder if it is worth it. Shit will live and hurt, just the whipping I'm miniskirts. Do the 9 to 5, stay alive, and we kicking dirt. You see, I see the light at the tunnel, just little blurry. But I'm saying
Very, very special thanks to Backxwash for appearing on this, the 565th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available on all Apple and Google platforms and other things as well. Spotify is one of those things. There's also a YouTube channel and stuff goes there, but you probably know what you use. But it is, just in case you don't know what you use, or if you want to switch, Creative Control is likely there, wherever it is you're going. If you can't find an episode that you're looking for, that you've heard about it but you don't know where it is, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my semi-regularly scheduled newsletter, please visit my website, vishkhanna.com. You can follow Creative Control on Twitter @VishCreative, or follow me directly @VishKhanna. Also, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation to keep this podcast going. There's a new feature now. You can actually make a donation for the whole year, an annual donation. I haven't really explored what this means. I guess it just means you're connected for the year, which is great. So anyway, patreon.com/Creative Control to keep this show going. I'd like to thank live@masseyhall.com. If you go to that website, you can watch beautifully captured concerts by great Canadian artists. Also, I'd like to shout out Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, Planet Bean Coffee, and Granddad's Donuts for their in-kind support for this show. Thanks as always to my dear friend Jim Guthrie. He lends me some music for the show, and you can learn more about him and his work at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode with the great Backxwash. Best of luck to Backxwash at the Polaris Music Prize this year. And if you like this episode, why not check out some more? Or subscribe to the show, or follow the show. However it is you do things, there's lots of other episodes. 564 other episodes to be very precise about it. So yeah, check out the show. Tell your friends about the show. And I'll tell your friends about you. No, wait, I'll tell my friends about you. Spread the word about you. Why not? I have to go. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.